Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else. Don't make me turn this website around.
Mikayla, and I'm not sure where, but they have a question for you, Andrew. So welcome, Mikayla.
Hi, Mikayla.
Hi. Hi.
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
What's your question for Andrew?
So I was wondering if we, like, as the people, have the power to impeach a Supreme Court judge, like, if that's something that we can do.
Yeah, good question, because I think that's going to come up in the coming months. I hope it's going to come up in the coming months. Brett Kavanaugh lied during his confirmation hearing. We know that. There's plenty of articles out there. Go read them. I think Amy Coney Barrett certainly misled. I think we're going to find out probably in the future that there was maybe one or two more explicit lies in there. We'll see. But so federal judges, including Supreme Court justices, are on the bench for the duration of their lives. The words in Article 3 say for good behavior. I'm going to be just a little bit of a constitutional nerd here for a minute because I am. So Article 1 of the Constitution, that's the legislature, that's Congress. That's about little over 50% of the words of the Constitution are dedicated to Congress because they're lawmakers. The guys who wrote it, they were lawmakers. They knew most about that. About 25% of the words are dedicated to Article 2, which is the executive, the president. And then Article 3, the courts, there's like not much in there at all. Very little. But it does say in Article, it's like 8%. It says that they get to hold their post through good behavior. So also talks about impeachment later on. Good behavior would mean if you do a high crime or misdemeanor, you're not behaving well, we can take you off the bench. So they can be impeached and removed. That would be similar to what you saw happen with Trump. It has happened to Supreme Court justices in the past. I should have looked before I came on here to talk about it. I want to say, do not quote me on this. I want to say that Salmon Chase might have been the last guy to be the Supreme Court justice, but it can and should happen. I think it's one thing for us to definitely talk about. There you go.
According to the Supreme Court .gov, the only justice to be impeached was Samuel Chase in 1805.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, there you go. And I think it's something we should definitely talk about. And this goes back to where I got cut off before when I was on my soapbox talking about how Amy Coney Barrett is an illegitimate judge. I don't know. I'd have to really dig into the procedure. I don't know whether violating Senate rules to rush a confirmation through, violating the markup rules of the committee to get her out of committee would account.
According to Lindsey Graham, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I mean, because technically she's not on the bench. It's not technically good behavior. I mean, that goes to the legitimacy, but not necessarily maybe her lifetime appointment would be where I would expect them to go with that kind of argument. But we do need to talk very seriously about correcting the courts. That has to happen.
Yeah, and I want to make sure we get to that. I could certainly see a justice being impeached for lying during their confirmation hearings. I don't see how a justice could be impeached for a rushed process because they're not in charge of the process. They're a passenger.
The Senate.
Kind of, but not. Right? Like Amy Coney Barrett could have at any point in time stood up and said, you know what? This is a hyper partisan process. This is a power grab. I'm worried about the legitimacy of the court, and I am withdrawing this or asking the Senate to hold this over until after the election, until after the inauguration, whatever. She could have done that. And I actually wrote, before we even knew who Trump was going to nominate, I wrote a piece for Religion Dispatches saying that if anybody accepts this nomination, they have, by definition, declared themselves unfit to hold that office. And I don't think this isn't just because, Trump is a pussy-grabbing asshole who's going to nominate somebody that he likes, but any nominee willing to wade in to that partisan duplicity lacks the character to sit on the high bench, because above all, judges have to be impartial and they have to have integrity. And nobody who possesses those traits could have accepted that nomination. And again, this is that is written into the code of conduct for United States judges. It lays out ethical canons. Canon 1 says that judges have to uphold the integrity and independence of the judiciary. We did not see that happen through any of this process, especially with the campaign commercial at the end of it. And Canon 3 says that judges have to perform their duties fairly, impartially, and diligently. And she is not impartial. Now, the rules don't apply to this.
In this religious, I don't know, I don't want to say cult, but conspiracy group, and it's like, it doesn't make me feel like she would be impartial on things that would fall under religious beliefs.
She certainly wouldn't, but we also know she won't be impartial when it comes to anything political that's partisan politically speaking. I mean, and now the rules, the ethics rules I mentioned don't apply to the Supreme Court, which is mind-blowing and needs to be corrected too. But in their desperation to win and retain power, McConnell and Trump, they created this impossible catch-22, because whoever joined Trump in that deranged rose ceremony, that they weren't just selling their soul to this authoritarian devil, they were signing it over on camera for all to see. No principled jurist could have accepted that nomination. No honest or honorable justice could have. And the fact that she did tells us really all we need to know. So, I mean, Matt, I do agree probably with your argument that she's a passenger to a certain extent. But if I say this genuinely, if that were me and this were flipped and it were my party and I had worked my way up, I would not have accepted that nomination under those circumstances. I genuinely believe that it would have been one of those moments in your life where you really look at yourself and see what you are made of. And Amy Coney Barrett was unprincipled, just flat out unprincipled.
I'm not completely convinced that I agree with you, only because I know that granted, I know I'm not qualified. I'm not remotely qualified. Of the two of us, put Andrew on the bench all day, every fucking day, forever. I want 23 of you added to the bench next year. I'm not qualified. But given that the court has already essentially been politicized, I think that if I were nominated, I don't think I'd have the ability to just say, no, I'm not going to accept this because I feel that it would, I'm not quite sure what to say. I get what you're saying. And I really wish that we had a Supreme Court full of people who were that principled. And
I do too.
It would be nice.
It would be, but that's the duty of being a judge.
Put in that position.
That is the duty of being a judge, though. Yeah, I mean, but that they have to maintain the independence and impartiality of the judiciary. And as a judge, they know that appearances matter above all else. It is crucial. You can't appear to be partisan or not partial in a case. If you are related to somebody, for instance, who's litigating a case, like the defendant or the plaintiff, something like that, and you're a judge, you cannot be on that, even if you could be impartial, because nobody's going to believe it. So you have to recuse yourself and step back and say, even though I am principled enough to do this, I'm also, my principles dictate that I can't be a part of this.
I agree that I would like that. I just don't know that.
Yeah.
I just don't know that that's a standard that we can hold someone to, that they would automatically be, automatically disqualify themselves, just saying, because I think there are some people who would say, you know what, that's the right thing to do, but I already know me, and generally I'm going to be a fair, impartial jurist, etc. They all think this. I don't sit around and think that Kavanaugh and Alito and them are sitting around having a drink and twirling and talking about how they're going to own the libtards in their next ruling. I don't think they're quite at that level.
You would think so with some of their followers, the way they talk. Like,
I am, I guess, I don't know. I probably haven't read as many decisions from them as you have.
Look, I mean, this is not a fair court anymore. And I think that's what you're saying. No. I mean, we're hammering Amy Barrett, and I think rightfully so. But this is not a fair court. This is not an impartial court. This is a Republican court now. I mean, three of the justices on this court.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
What makes me the maddest is because of back in 2016 when Lindsey Graham was like, "Oh, hold me to my words. You can't have an appointment during an election year." hold me to my words when it happens again. And like, well,
he may be held to his
where
words.
are you, Lindsey Graham?
It's really close for him right now.
The hypocrisy is mind blowing. The hypocrisy is mind blowing. But I mean, we do need to. Let me just back it up and talk about the whole court for just a 1 minute soapbox here, because it's not fair to just hammer on Barrett. This is not an impartial court anymore. Before
I have you do that,
right,
Mikayla, I don't want to keep you on the line if you got the answer you're looking for. So, did you have anything else?
No, that's the only question I had.
You want to hang up on us?
Sure.
Thanks, Mikayla.
Y'all are done.
Thank you. I'm gonna let Andrew do his desired dissertation here. I want to make sure that people in the chat know that yes, I'm aware that there technically aren't qualifications. Me saying I'm not qualified to be a justice is me recognizing and applying some integrity in the way that Andrew was encouraging us to. And that while I'm technically eligible, that doesn't mean that I am qualified to actually be a jurist. I might meet the letter of the technical eligibility that's separate from qualifications.
Okay, so
it's not just about Amy; it's about the whole court.
Let's just back. I mean, this is not a fair court. This is not an impartial court. We could say this is a Catholic court, but this is definitely a Republican court. 3 of the justices on the Supreme Court were on the legal team that litigated Bush versus Gore, the 2000 decision that handed the White House to George W. Bush.
Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Alito.
Kavanaugh, Barrett, and Roberts.
Oh, I thought
Roberts.
All right,
Roberts. I mean,
that's weird.
Nope. Now, no, I think it was Roberts. Roberts didn't go on the bench till W put him there. No, W put him on the Supreme Court. Yeah, I think you might be right. Alito, and Alito's more conservative than those 3.
Yep.
Justice Thomas's wife, is a crazy conservative who posts like George Soros memes on her Facebook. She works for a super conservative lobbying outfit in DC. Gorsuch sits on the seat that was basically stolen for political reasons that you already talked about. I mean, so the court, I don't think the court necessarily has a legitimacy problem. I think it's illegitimate in the way that we were trying to talk about earlier. And I don't know how much people heard about my rant there. But I mean, it's a wing of the Republican Party, and it's making decisions like it. Justice Kavanaugh is now the new median justice, meaning in terms of like on the liberal conservative scale, he is now the middle, not the swing vote, but he is the median justice. So sit with that for a minute. Hostile to the First Amendment, devils triangling, beer guzzling, boys will be sexual assaulters, boofing, calendaring Brett Kavanaugh, who worked in the W. Bush White House, is the median member of the court. Right, and the lower courts are worse in some respects. I mean, this is the one thing that everybody I think really needs to understand. I mean, our courts are already packed. They have been broken by McConnell and Trump. McConnell held open 105 seats on the federal court system in the last 2 years of Obama, including that Supreme Court seat. They filled them all. We're talking like 250 judges. A third of the circuit courts, a quarter of the district courts are now filled with Trump appointees. And while you're sitting there thinking about the justices that were appointed by Democrats, there's 3 of those, and there's 3 that were on the Republican Bush versus Gore team. Think about what that means for the coming weeks. Think about what it means to have a court that is stocked with partisan political hacks, because if they have a chance to decide this election for Donald Trump, I think they will. I don't really have much doubt. And I don't say that because I want people to despair. Quite the opposite. I think people need to go vote early. If you vote absentee, we already talked about it. Don't put it in the mail. Go put it in a drop box. Take it to the clerk. We have to vote in numbers that are enough to overcome voter apathy, to overcome the structural hurdles like voter ID laws and all the other voter suppression measures they've trotted out. We have to overcome a president who's probably going to declare victory on election night, no matter what the numbers say, just like he did this week with COVID, right? We beat COVID, he said. We have to overcome the Electoral College, this artifact of slavery. They want to take away your vote because your vote is all that matters. So people have to get out and vote. Okay, I swerved really far into that. No, sorry.
And that's something we can't say enough. And I love the fact that I see you saying it a lot, and I keep reminding people because, so for years, I was somebody who was non-political. Probably a good thing because those are the years where I was a Rush Limbaugh ditto head. But I, it was like, I don't care about vote. I don't think it makes any difference. I was in the military. I didn't have the same rights as everybody else. And so it was like, as long as I'm in the military, it was incredibly difficult for me to come up with a good reason to vote. Because one of the, really wish. So if there are things that people take away from this, number one, stop looking at your vote as if it is a prize to be earned. It is your voice in the system. Stop looking at the people you elect as if you are rewarding them with a job. This is about public service. Most of them don't have any interest in actual public service, or I won't say most. Some of them have no interest in actual public service. They are there to serve their ideals and their community and everything else. They're not there to actually serve the people they represent. Otherwise, Ted Cruz would answer me once in a while. You're not saying you have now said the right words and made the right promises, and I will now gift you with my vote, and you will now be elevated to the status of elected official job. No, what you're talking about is someone wants to represent you, and they're saying what they want or what they think is necessary to get your vote. All those people sitting around going, oh, well, I don't know why. First of all, if you think both the parties are the same, imagine what the Supreme Court would look like if we hadn't had. So people would say, oh, 3 Supreme Court justices have now been appointed by a president that did not even win the popular vote. That's true. However, W appointed a couple as well. Granted, he did it in his second term where he did win the popular vote, but he also didn't win the popular vote, when he was first elected. Yeah. But because he didn't appoint justices until his second term, I guess we'll let that slide. But if you think the Supreme Court would look the same, I don't know what to tell you. But for the people who are like, well, my vote doesn't matter, it's all rigged, it's all everything, then why are people spending so much money, not just to put up political ads to try to get you to vote, but more importantly, because that could just be, the conspiracy theorists could go, well, they want you to think your vote counts, so they need to pander to you to make you think your vote count. They're gerrymandering fucking districts to make sure that your vote counts less. If your vote didn't count, gerrymandering would not be a fucking thing. The only thing that would happen is you'd have political ads and people bitching back and forth, and then whatever is rigged is rigged. There would be no reason to gerrymander a district ever, except for the fact that votes do in fact count.
All the litigation that's going on, all the voter ID laws, all the voter suppression measures, they are putting them in place. This is happening because your vote matters, because they want to take it away, because they want to make it so that you throw your hands up in frustration and say, oh, this is just too hard. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know what to do. I'm just not going to do it. That is their goal. That's part of the goal of all of the legal wrangling here. That's why I tried to sort of oversimplify it in the beginning, is to get people to sit at home. That's part of the reason that they are taking these cases. Your vote is all that matters. That's it. Yep. It's the only thing you've got.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.